Good evening and welcome to Baywaves, a platform for African youth to build a better Africa for themselves. I am your host, Happiness Ranter, and today I'll be leading the conversation. I'm actually excited and nervous at the same time because this topic that we're having tonight it's kind of sensitive, but I hope you're gonna have fun. So tonight we are talking about teenage pregnancy during COVID. So I'm not going to be handling this alone. I have my beautiful and smart co-host, Takatso Monakedi. Good evening, Wanako. Hi, how are you?
Timela Khaitedi, I'm okay, and how are you yourself?
I'm good, thanks. Uh, I understand, or you have recently graduated from the teenage world, only 2011. So I just want to know, how do you relate to this whole thing? How did you manage to dodge the bullet? Because it's a sudden trend, man. So I want to know, how did you manage to dodge it? How do you think your peers fell into the trap?
That's okay. Happiness, you forgot something, and I'm so mad at you right now. You forgot.
What did I
Hi guys, welcome to our YouTube channel.
I'm so sorry. Yes, guys, please. Thank you, Takato, for reminding me. We are here every Tuesday at 7 p.m. So if you are watching on YouTube, please make sure to subscribe to our channel and like the video. If you're watching on Facebook, make sure to share the live stream with your friends on WhatsApp, whichever platform that you're using. Yes, back to you,
Yes,
Takato.
thank you. I was not gonna sleep well tonight. You know, as much as this topic is sensitive, I don't think it's sensitive, by the way. I think really sensitive because of the shame around these things. But ke nna le tlotsi la ma 2000, so I relate more to them than to the other kids. So trust me when I tell you, for there's no intense generation than Yama 2000. As an ancestor, I've had the opportunity to live with the 90s kids, and I have the opportunity to live with the 2000 kids. And the peer pressure in the 2000 kids is far much worse than with the 90s kids. I don't know if somebody understands me, but yeah. I dodged like never get papa. To be honest, the get papa, you'd always find me around Bashimani. We all have that kind of thing with us. So I think kitaba ya gore be ba re thushitse with the 90s cohort. We were just told you're gonna fall pregnant. And to be as much as that is harsh and not informative and may come across as ignorance, it saved us from a lot of things, because you knew the moment you take off your shirt, you're gonna fall pregnant. But with the kids, they have so much information to their exposure, and they are curious, they want to try things out, and then they're in things that are not they're not supposed to find themselves in. But then again, it goes back to Tabaya Hore, because with these pregnancies, Rika 10 years wanted to experiment sex. It raises up a lot of concerns, do you understand? A lot of questions like what happened, and yeah, I think I managed to survive because never know and that was it.
That's a threat, yo.
It is, yo.
Yes, so we are addressing teenage pregnancy. The main key is to talk about the causes and how we can mitigate the whole issue. So before we move to teenage pregnancy, I just want to say COVID did hit us all. Re shapile di-business, mental health, you name it. It affected everybody and everything. But I have a friend of mine, Blessing Nonsikelelo, who has pledged to help small businesses that suffered due to COVID. She is doing this on her birthday. Her birthday is on Sunday, so she'll be giving away amounts of 5,000 to small businesses. So all you need to do is send her an email with a motivational letter to nontsikelelo21@gmail.com. If you missed it, our commenters there, it's Kenneth and Mashodi. They are going to be helping us with such information, just to write it down. So yes, if you are a small business that has suffered due to COVID, please send her an email. The closing date is, I think it's on Saturday, because she's giving out the cash on Sunday. The other thing is, if you want to help with the pledges, you can send money to my account. She's currently in China, so I'm the one who's facilitating the finances. Mashwedi is also going to attach my banking details below. So back to the teenage pregnancy during COVID. Tagazu, you did say it's a sensitive, not sensitive topic. We have made it sensitive, but we need to talk more about it. I think us not talking more about it is the reason for all of this. However, today we do have experts in the house that are going to be helping us to give us more insight and probably the possible solutions for this matter. The first one here we have Ms. D.E. BALOYI, who is from DZUNIE. She is a social work. She holds a BA in social work, and she is to be conferred her master's in just a month's time. She has been a social worker since 2010 and is currently employed by the Department of Social Development. Good evening, Ms. BALOYI.
Evening, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay.
Yes, I'm just curious, what made you choose your profession? Why social work?
Okay, it's a very short story to tell. My passion was in physiotherapy. So what happened is my matric results didn't come out as anticipated. And at that time, University of Limpopo, TEFLUOP was merging with Medunsa. So it was University of Limpopo. So my father was like, no, you cannot add an extra year and bridge or upgrade your matric, because there is no, we are not sure if you're gonna make it still. So you just have to look for a second choice that you're gonna do. At that moment, I couldn't think of anything. They give me a prospectus, it's in the university. The language there in the prospectus, some are shortened, some they're just BA, this and that. And I couldn't understand most of the degrees that were listed in the prospectus. And then the only one that I could understand was social work. So that is how I became a social worker. But what I can tell is that God has plans and knows our destiny, because I learned to love the profession. I'm happy with it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have pursued it up to a master's degree. I think I would have diverted to something else, because at this time, I'm able to choose which one is best and what to do, and I can be able to finance it. But I fell in love with it. I'm still in it 10 years down the drain. I'm still serving the community with pride.
That's awesome. When I tell you, God has a way to connect you with your destiny. Now, I used to think I was going to do something in the medical field, but here I am in a whole different industry. But I still feel like this is where I'm supposed to be. So yes, speaking of Medunsa, we also have another guest who is a doctor, Dr. T.H. DIOBE, who is he's from Buruleng. I need to talk about his origin first. He's from Buruleng. He's an intern, a doctor at JST Hospital, and has recently graduated from Sefako Makgato, formerly known as Medunsa. He is he holds a diploma in Bible studies and is the founder of I Speak to the World Foundation. Good evening, Doctor. How are you?
Hey, good, happiness, and you?
I'm good, thanks. I just want to know, Doc, what is I Speak to the World Foundation? What is it about?
Okay, and good evening to the listeners as well. So I Speak to the World Foundation is something that we started with a friend of mine when I was still in university. So basically, she had an idea to say that we need to find a way as we are progressing in our careers to give back to the community by basically just going out and reaching out to the youngsters, particularly teenagers and young adults, and try to just give them some form of motivation by way of speaking, encouragement, and some activities. So most of the time would be targeting schools, churches, and communities. Wherever we can find a platform, we just go there, try and encourage and try to do some activities that we can actually motivate young people that particularly in the villages, that your life does not end in the village. You can actually make something good of yourself, despite how difficult your background and your circumstances are. You can be somebody in life.
That's awesome. That's great. And where can we find, are you putting your foundation on social media?
Okay, not yet. We don't have social media pages yet. But we had a blog that we used to use, but that's outdated. That's old technology. So, but yeah, you can just contact me or Lerato Clementine Mohami. We both on Facebook. If you want to find more about it.
All right, awesome. Today, my guests, my experts, we are talking about teenage pregnancy. I just want to know, Lena, personally and in your line of expertise, what do you think it is the cause of this whole thing, the high teenage pregnancy before bringing COVID in? What is the reason for teenage pregnancy? Regularly 2000 more, she just thinks people are curious. Lena, Lena,
Okay, can I start?
yes.
Okay. In my observation and the experience from the office, I believe that these teenagers are different beings from different backgrounds, and also the contributory factors.
What do you think?
Sorry?
Sorry.
Okay. I was saying, I believe even the contributory factors will differ in terms of what really happened until they got pregnant. We cannot just paint them with the same brush, whereas we're talking about teenagers that are orphans, we are talking about teenagers that are raised by single parents, we are talking about teenagers who are raised by their fellow siblings. We are also talking about those who were raised by guardians and those that are raised by both parents. So I believe those can also be looked into when we talk about teenage pregnancy, but not to paint them with the same brush. However, the reasons that we can look at could be the issue of peer pressure. You see, teenagers, they do sit down, they do talk. Even recently, we can look at the issue of they are always on the phone. They are talking to their friends, screenshot, sharing everything that has been happening. They are talking, they are communicating. So that pressure that I'm left out, I'm already 13, I'm already 14, I haven't slept with a girl, I haven't slept with a boy. They feel like they want to belong to a certain conversation so that when they talk about such things, they have something to contribute to. And also with the issue of the experimentation, some they do want to experiment. Not all of them want to experiment. Some they do experiment to say, let me try this, let me look at this, let me do this and that, without even considering the long-term effects of whatever that they are doing. And also, we can also look at the issue of limited number of sex education around our areas, wherever we can find teenagers, be it at school, be it at home, be it from parents or family. I believe the time you were talking about the issue of my 90s and everything, I also believe that there's nothing wrong with the generation of today, but there is definitely something wrong with our parents of today who does not want to shift the parenthood or parenting styles that they experience from their parents. They still want to use the same styles that they were raised with, like the relationship between the parent and the child and whoever the guardian is. You may find that it's not even friendly for that teenager to be able to open up, also to confirm what the friends are saying. It's not even conducive for them to can say, Mama, I heard about this and this and that, or I saw this and this on Facebook, or this and this, or where. So it becomes difficult for them to open up. So they end up trying it for themselves. And at the end of the day, when you try fire with your hands, you get burned. And when you are burned, it's already late. You are in the part of the statistics of the country, of the village, of the school. Believe you me, you become a statistic everywhere, because collaboratively, when they talk about teenage pregnancy, one way or the other, you are part of that. You are listed amongst those. So I that's all I can say in terms of before COVID, because if I can explore more, I will cover also for after COVID. So let me just give my colleague or my fellow guest to share his experiences and his observations.
Yeah. So I do think that you covered most of the issues that we are having. Particularly, we do have a problem of teenage pregnancy in the country. So I think, in my observation or opinion, I think there are a number of reasons, and some of which you've already mentioned. And the issue of gender-based violence is also a very serious one, because you find that kids, young children as young as 10 years old, as young as 11 years old, as young as 12 years old, some of those do not really have the necessary intellectual capacity to consent to sex. So you start asking yourself questions around it. So I do think that some of them find themselves in situations of dysfunctional families, where maybe they have been raised by the uncle and the uncle is taking advantage of that. And in Black culture and Black family, people are not overtly open about such situations. So you find that the parents, even if they find out that actually this pregnancy was a result of rape, some of them would decide to deal with it as a family and not come out and so on and stuff like that. And I've seen situations whereby actually teenagers do come and say, well, this is not my own doing, I was raped, but as a family we sat down, we decided not to press charges, and we just want to deal with it as a family and raise the child. So yeah, you find those devastating situations. And also I think the situation of experimentation, as she said, you find that at that age, I mean, we've been teenagers before, so we know that there's a whole lot that goes on in your body, in your system, and you want to try and explore around it. But the problem starts when you're exploring and you do not have the necessary information about what you are exploring on. And the major contributing factors, I think, in our times, the internet, it's something that is very powerful, and we often underestimate it, because these kids are getting cell phones at the age of 10, at the age of 9. I mean, if you're giving a cell phone to a child that young, they're going to get curious. They're going to want to search and find out what's going on, and they have friends who are perhaps older than them, and they find themselves in very obscure pages on the internet, and from that follows wanting to actually do what they see. And yeah, and I mean, a child that young would not necessarily want to be or know how to be responsible when they are engaging in sexual intercourse. And also I think that most children are not necessarily, or most kids or most teenagers are not necessarily wised up as to with regards to the issue of contraceptives. Some of them are either in denial, or they do not want to learn, or they do not want to. Also, you have to understand that when they are doing these things, most of them are hiding. So if you are doing something and you are hiding, let's say it's something that was constructed amongst peers. When they are doing that, they are doing it hiding from their parents. They are doing it hiding from their teachers. So they would not necessarily want to know about, what are the benefits around the issues of condoms and contraceptives and so on. So yeah, that is just my brief input with regards.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Doctor, and thank you, Ms. Baloyi. Right now, we're talking about teenage pregnancy alone in isolation. So I just want to incorporate COVID in it because it has skyrocketed since we got in this pandemic. Takatso, we'll be using you as the teenager of this joke. Why do you think the stats were shot really high? Over 60% of the the stats that we kept as a country.
Okay, let's just not talk about the country, because this has been a problem way before COVID, and it became an exponentially rising problem during COVID. There was some studies along the years, and there were about 21 million girls in developing countries between the ages of 15 and 19 that were pregnant, and 12 million give birth every year. That is a huge number of kids giving birth every year. So when we come into now COVID, we lock down with our uncles, we lock down with our neighbors, and we lock down with every kind of person that we would escape from every day. So the rise may be from rapes, as the doctor has said. The rise may be from because there was a time when you were not allowed to go out at all, so contraceptives as well. But I have a problem with contraceptives more aging up another 10 years to 19. I just need the doctor to explain, because there's so much going on regarding contraceptives when we introduce them to such a young body, to such a developing body. What maybe if we knew the dangers, the pros and cons of contraceptives, not excluding condoms, because we often, when we think contraceptives, we often cancel out condoms as an effective contraceptive. But why would we want to introduce contraceptives to such young children? Isn't there any other way of solving the problem than imposing such a hormonal contraceptive in a hormonal changing body?
That one is
this
for
was
you,
directed
doctor.
to the doctor.
Oh, she wants me to respond. Yeah, she mentioned looking down with uncles and relatives. You forgot to mention they are looking down with boyfriends as well. So, but then with regards to that, I think because you remember there used to be a statement that we used to play around at school to say every female of childbearing age who is sexually active is pregnant until proven otherwise. So, I mean, if you're at that age already, like maybe 10 years is too young, but if you're around 14, 15 and you're already in puberty, you're already seeing your period and you go on and want to start thinking about having sex, according to me, the safest thing to do is to find out, what are the ways, because it's not just a pregnancy that we are trying to protect ourselves from. You have STIs and then you have things like HIV. So we want to protect ourselves from a number of things apart from pregnancy. So when I mentioned contraceptives, I use a general term, but I think thinking more around the issue and the usage of condoms as a method of contraceptives. Of course, if you are still way too young, still around 14, 15 years, you wouldn't want to be taking contraceptives that are going to expose you to artificial form of hormones at that early age. But at the same time, if you think you're old enough to have sex, then you should start thinking about that, maybe seeking information. I think also you have a point that maybe the problem that we have is that the information around those medicines or those drugs and contraceptives is very limited, because where do you find it? Because if you are like around 15 and you're thinking about having sex, you go to the clinic, the local clinic, and want to find out about that, the nurses are going to give you a hiding, they're going to be very rude at you. So I would not necessarily say this is something that is ideal to do, but we need to be open about it, and we need to be honest enough to say these children are already having sex. And for us to start thinking about how we, like she mentioned something to say, we need to be honest enough to say how we grew up as the 90s. It's very different with regards to how these kids are growing up. So we need to be open and you have conversations with them and tell them the pros and cons. Because anyway, whether they are doing it in front of us or whether they are doing it in hiding, they are going to have sex anyway. So even as an older teenager or as a young adult, you are older than them. You from school, I mean, from reading books, from television, you may have already, some information to share with them, and I think you'd be in a good position to also talk to them and give them. So the side effects are there, depending on which contraceptive you are using. I don't think I would have enough time to go through all of that. But I mean, we are lucky enough as this generation that we have Google. Google is not always accurate, but it will give you some basic information with regards to whatever that you are looking for.
All right, thank you, Doctor. I don't know if Takati, you are done, because Unilo redirected the whole thing. You didn't tell us why Limaga COVID Takati, why?
He mentioned that we are locked down with boyfriends. But then I have a problem, I have a problem with each time we talk about this topic, we always focusing on the girl child. Where exactly are the boys? What happens? The boys are literally missing. They are nowhere to be found. It's always this number of girls are pregnant. Why don't you have stats? This number of boys impregnated this number of girls. Why is there a boy child missing in this equation?
I think it's because we are more likely to see pregnancy through a girl, and they are the ones maybe that the society deemed them to be vulnerable to such experiences. But believe you me, whether the boy child is mentioned or not, teenage pregnancy affects them both. It can just, maybe it's not visible enough at that moment for a boy that he is also affected. But at a later stage, he's going to be a man. He's going to have to take responsibility. He's going to have to maintain that child. And those relationships are not likely to end up in marriage, most of them. At the end of the day, he will be saying, she is not my type. And then I want to marry my type. And what happens to the child? Now we have another dysfunctional family. We have another a mother without a husband, maybe, or someone to look after the child. So the boy child is also there, but society has made it hard for all these things to cover the boys. Even the statistics doesn't mention the boys, because we don't know out of those millions, how many boys impregnated them. You may find that one boy impregnated 5, or one boy impregnated 3. And then at the end of the day, they are not counted amongst the statistics, and they think they can just get away with it. But life taught us that in a long run, they will have to account for whatever they did. Some, they also end up maybe being punished from home or by parents who say, now you are a father, you can just leave school and go to work. Now you have opened the mouth, make sure that this child has something to eat or something. So there is a way maybe that boys are also affected, which cannot be seen in front of the people, because boys are mostly praised. Okay, I've learned that men, even from Facebook, they praise each other, they boast about the number of children they have, and nothing about accountability and responsibility there. Someone will tell you, I have 7 kids. And the question will be, from the same mother now? The answer is no. And what happens to those mothers? Do you even care what they are going through? Like, they boast about some things that they're just inhumane, according to me, because you can't just be proud that we have 5 kids and then you don't look back to say, how did I come to this point of having 5 kids from different mothers? How many hearts did I break? How many maintenances will I be able to pay when I am working? And how much am I going to contribute towards this child? Because 500, 200, it doesn't do enough. It doesn't do much. Even if you can just go through court to say, I have nothing, I'm paying for a car, for this, or this, for this. At the end of the day, the money is not enough, that child will grow. What kind of a child are we raising from that teenage pregnancy? Are we raising a child that will have respect? Are we having the child that will be bitter? Are we raising the child that will not have identity? They will lose their self-identity, which they will have to discover themselves at a later stage, after how many incidences or occurrences where they feel like, if my father was here, I wish my father was here, and all those things. So the boy child might not be in the picture in the statistics, but the impact is there. The impact is there, even though they are not in this. But I just wish, if it was possible, for them also to be mentioned, so that they understand that this is not a feminine matter. This is not about women. This is about teenagers. And teenagers, we're talking about both genders, male or female.
Thank you, Ms. Baloyi. You are still watching or listening to Bay Waves. We are talking about teenage pregnancy during COVID. We have experts in the house, a social worker and a doctor. So please grab this opportunity and make sure you throw in comments there by the comment section. Speaking of the boy child, Dr. DIOBE, you are representing the boys right now. I just want to know, I read something on Twitter the other day, boys get exposed to sexual activities at a very young age by an older woman. That is something that we also don't talk about. And I think it's a whole topic on its own that we need to address someday. But Leona, it's in line with this conversation that we are having. I just want to know, why do you think that is? Is it because boys also want to explore? What do you think is the reason for that? Do you think it's just the women taking advantage? What roles are the boys playing? What role are the older women playing in that? Do you think all of this could be a contributing factor to this whole teenage pregnancy? Because what these boys will do, they'll learn from these older women and then come back to experiment it with or continue the fun with the younger women.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the issue with regards to both genders is that we are not practically raised the same way. I think in as much as we always bash at the female child, but the female child, for me, I think receives more support as compared to the male child, because you realize that even in primary schools and even secondary schools, there are programs mainly focused and aimed at empowering and supporting young women and young girls with regards to giving them information, making them understand and learn more about their bodies. But then little is done when it comes to young boys. Little conversations are had when it comes to these young teenagers, because when it comes to boys, we are more focused around them doing drugs and alcohol. But we very rarely, I think we sort of assume that the issue of sexual intercourse just happens automatically to them, or the information around it just comes natural, and which is a facade, according to me. For example, you find that most teenage boys would actually confess that when they lost their virginity, it's hardly ever with a younger girl. They would go around and sleep with younger girls, but most of the time when they lose their virginity, it's usually with maybe a girl 2 years older or a year older than them. And also that you cannot necessarily say somebody who's more mature than you are taking advantage of them. I think for them, it's more of curiosity and wanting to explore. And of course, if they learn this and they find out 1, 2, 3, and it's nice, they're going to want to, I mean, at that particular age, we cannot say that you are mature. They're going to want to explore more of that. And I think also amongst their peers, it gives them some form of bragging right. It's stupid, but it happens. Boys do go around bragging about how many girls they slept with, for example, and how experienced they are when it comes to the issue of having sex. So those things go around in boys' cycles, and they are often left unattended, because already we, as she mentioned, we have issues of dysfunctional families. So we have absent fathers, we have boys running away from the responsibility of being fathers. So when it comes to having a talk, who are going to talk to those boys about the issues of sex and all of that? And also, boys are most oftenly discouraged from speaking out. I don't know. I think girls are more likely to speak out about certain issues as compared to boys, because maybe as a boy child you are raised in a way or in a manner of saying that perhaps you look more stronger and more macho when you are not speaking about issues and when you are not confiding about issues. But then girls are more likely to go and speak maybe to their sisters, friends, or mothers about certain things as it relates to maybe issues of being taken advantage of, because we do have boys who are raped, by the way, as well. It's not just girls. We do have young boys who have been taken advantage of out there.
Thank you, Doctor.
To add on that,
all right.
Yeah, I wanted to add on what the doctor has been talking about right now about issue of expressing themselves. It's very hard with boys, but we often encourage them to say, we all have emotions, we all go through something, we have feelings. So it's mostly important for one to express their feeling. At least find a safe place where you'll be vulnerable to your feelings, to explore all those feelings and how you feel. I think it helps. We can't have tears for nothing. It's not for girls. Anyone else will go through something someday. So it's important also for boys to be given that platform to share their experiences, to talk to their parents about anything. We cannot always say, be strong, men should be strong, and men don't do that, men don't cry, men do that. I think the society has done a bad job there, because men are expected to be strong with every burden that they come across. Even if it's something that is a mistake that they want to talk about, they end up keeping it to themselves until such time where the situation has escalated. They've learned to live with it, and they continuously break girls' hearts, because at the first mistake, they wanted to open up, but no one was there for them. So what do? They continue doing the same thing, because anyway, I'm a man, so I'm expected to do what men does.
Thank you for that one. You know, we actually had a conversation about that. We were talking about patriarchy, toxic masculinity. We were having a whole conversation about that. And if you want to access it, please check it out on our YouTube channel. We are Bold Moves Radio. It's there, it's available. Go watch it. And then it's also available here on Facebook. We are still Bold Moves Radio. So right now we are moving to the comment section. Takhato, what do you have for us?
Okay, before we move on to the comment section, regarding more boys are more likely to experience their first sexual encounter with an older woman, is because we do not talk enough about predator women. We do not talk about it. Women are predators, but we mask it off as something else that's not predatory. Women are actually pedophiles. By the way, I wanted to say, for the rise in the pregnancies during COVID, I think the rapes found their best friend's pedophilia, because why would a 10-year-old be pregnant? So there's that. But I have one question from Prudence Lebokwete. She's commenting on the teachings that they got from parents and whatnot. She's saying, but nowadays TV teaches us about sex and that, just like Soul Buddies did the job for our parents. Like, yes, our parents have found it difficult to talk about sex, but it's because of their parenting. They were the parenting style they were parented with, but also TV, our media has tried to fill that void. Did TV really feel that? Did media really try to fill that void, or it just added onto the excitation of wanting to find out, of wanting to experiment? Personally, I think we need to redefine explicitity on media. We need to redefine but again, age of consent. We need to revisit those things, because I don't think I think if anything, they did not solve the problem. They just added on to more problems, because a 12-year-old can consent to sex. A 12-year-old. I had my first period when I was 12 or 13, but at 12 I could already say yes to having a sexual encounter, which does not really make sense, because now we have this problem and anyone can come and claim, no, I did ask her and she did say it. Like, one was 12 for heaven's sake. So I think those are just some of the things that the country should go back on. We do consent 18, the content they show on TV. Soul Buddies was an exceptional TV show, by the way. Maybe we need more shows like Soul Buddies. Maybe we need more shows like sex education. Maybe we need more shows that are gonna show, that are gonna remove the shame from sex, but also educating at the same time. Because what we are struggling with is we're trying to educate by instilling fear, and that doesn't work. Honestly, that doesn't work, because if I die, I die. And the doctor here said, we're looking at, when we talk contraceptives, we're looking at preventing pregnancy only and not the other STIs. I promise you, we do not care about STIs. We don't even know about STIs. What we care about is preventing pregnancy. That is what we fear the most. So there is so much fear. There is so much fear around sexual talks in our homes. And TV, Leona, I don't think is doing justice, to be honest, because they will bring a scenario where I, the actor, give a situation that gets me it gets me a yeast infection, but that doesn't really focus on the yeast infection that I got. It focuses on many other things. I hear all the time, but comment the shows like Skim Sam, but I don't think that's the right way, because we have to sit and think, oh, what are they trying to teach me here? We need things when they come and say, this is what I'm teaching you. So there's just a lot, but the reason why we have so much cases, to be honest, I believe it's the raping and pedophilia. There's no way. I believe there's no way a child will just, I want to have sex. Thank you.
Thank you, Takhato. Well, the media. You know, the media plays a very huge role, more than the parents themselves. It plays a very huge role. And like Prudence said in the comment section, Rena, we had the privilege, the Barking Soul Buddies, which was giving us good education about such matters that our parents were not able to talk to us about. Back then, we were instilled with fear. In a way, it worked, because you compare the stats, it shows that it worked for our generation versus the cool parents right now. I think the parents are trying to be cool. They allow their kids to go for sleepovers for a month. For a week. How does that happen? Now back then, they didn't allow such things to happen, and I think that whole thing mitigated the whole solution, the whole thing. The other thing, the media thing is romanticizing everything. Check the most watched show, Blood on Water. It's one of the trending shows on Netflix, the youth. They make it look so cool to have a boyfriend and have sex with them. So the media is, instead of teaching Bana not to do that or education about it, they make it look cool. And when I tell you, the youth would do anything to look cool, because that's how we roll. I see a hand from Takhato. I think it's something from the comment section. Takhato, you may.
Yes, we have a comment from Sinamela Dorothy Ratilwe. The high rate is sometimes due to hiding and being in denial about being sexually active. And then we have another one from Cecil Maboko. Professor Jordan Peterson says something along the line of, children have to have siblings because one child is way more work than three, because you would have to amuse one child all the time, whilst when you have three, you can ignore them and they can raise each other, as long as you are there to see it that they don't harm each other, which is after all your job as a parent. would you say that this idea Peterson has adopted is still with relevancy to teenage mothers? And then we have Prudence Lebohwete Are. Some boys are introduced early to sex by elder men or also by being raped by men. Before we continue, there's another one from Ifenia Lele Mod. And the expression goes both ways because some teen girls are afraid also to talk about what they are going through in terms of being molested and raped by family members and friends because they are afraid to even say a word to their parents regarding anything about sex. That's all we had from the comment section for now.
Thank you, Takato. I was experiencing a glitch from my side. I just want to apologize to the audience and the listeners. So we are going back to the stats. A total of 34,587 teenagers gave birth in 2020. I just want to know from Doctor, how was the atmosphere there in the labor ward?
Yeah, it was shocking to say the least because I mean sometimes you hear about these things on TV and you hear about it like just around the community, but to actually see them happening, it's a whole new difference altogether. So in the consultation room, because in the labor ward, when you are there, you assist the child, you assist the kid. There's no question about that. You took an oath, so there's no time to actually go around, the nitty-gritties of what happened. But I had time when I was working in the clinic to actually sit down with some of these girls and ask them a few questions. So I was often stuck between, okay, it has already happened. I need to assist her. And also, do I come in as a form of parental guidance, maybe to prevent something like this from happening in the future? So some of them would be coy about it. You'd realize that they don't necessarily want to talk about it, and they don't necessarily want to be open about it. And maybe it's a culture that has been perpetuated from home. And also with something that Takato said, with regards to the law, I think the law states that at the age of 16, that's the correct age where you can actually consent for sex. But however, the funny part about this law is that it also says at the age of 12, you can consent for abortion and you can also consent for contraceptives. So then my question is, if the legal age of consenting for sex is 16 years, then why are we consenting for abortion and contraceptives at 12? It seems to me that it's a little bit contradictory. So also the issue of rape, it's one that it usually would come out as the most evasive when I had experiences with these girls. And I would also realize that some of them are dating guys who are older than them. So you find that she's 17 year old, 15 or 16, and she's dating somebody who's 20, or he's dating a guy from varsity. And I would talk to them and I would ask them, do you know that according to the law, this is actually statutory rape? Ne? And they said, yeah, I know. They would say, yeah, I know. And I spoke to my mom and I spoke to my family, and then we've decided not to press charges on the perpetrator. So you see, then it becomes a cycle. It continues like that. So you have a 16-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 14-year-old. And I would actually shocked. Why are you pregnant? Why are you getting pregnant at 14? Do you know how old is your boyfriend? She would say that the boyfriend is 18 or 19. Do you know that this is statutory rape? Have you done something about it? Most of them will say, no, we spoke, and then amongst the families here, accepted the child, he will raise the child. So it goes unnoticed, and life just continues like that. So there are laws that are put in place by the country to try and prevent this, but however, I think it's just perpetuating it more than preventing it, because at the end of the day, it is the family, it is the girl child that decide what happens next. And some of them, you can't blame them. They're still young. They want to avoid the trauma of court cases. I mean, you are pregnant at that age. You don't want more stress. So yeah, it was. You know, when these statistics came out, I wasn't shocked because I saw it. You know, you see a primi gravide, a first-time mom at the age of 15 years old, they are already having one child and they are maybe coming for the second one, or at that age they are having twins. And you know, you think about a lot of consequences, you know, around it, because this body also is still developing. It's still particularly too young. You know, the systems are not well developed enough to handle pregnancy, and you have complications. Some of them have high blood at that age, and some of them have other complications that can actually lead to the mother dying or losing the baby. And that is why, according to medical law, actually teenage pregnancy is considered as some form of a condition that should be treated in level 3 hospitals and above, because you are scared that, you know, this type of pregnancy on its own, it's more like a disease or a condition, because it places a danger both to the mother and the baby.
Thank you, Doctor. You spit a lot of things that I want to address. When can we question the law? Because you did speak of contradicting laws right there. I want to know where can we question this? I know the past few weeks we were having a political debate. We wanted a new party that is just gonna involve the youth, and we saw a young people's party emerge from it. So I think we are also gonna find a solution in this platform in order for us to question such laws. And 12 years. Well, according to the stats, 688 of the stats that I quoted were aged 9 and 10 years. Like how? I don't understand. How does I never even imagined 9 years or I think I was even playing with math at the age of 9 years. I want to question Tabaya early development, but before we get there, I want to know from Ms. BALOYI, what are the psychological effects of teenage pregnancy?
Okay. Remember, we are talking about a child here, having a child. At that age, the child needs care from parents. You still need to cuddle with your mother. You still need to go to the mall holding hands. You still need the way a child should behave. That is what we expect from a child. So now you give birth to a child. How does that work? Do you migrate to adulthood? Now you are a parent. So every scenario changes now. The parents are not regarding you as a child anymore. You are a mother too. So sometimes they will even call you Mana Anzani. You see now, you are migrating from that teenager to being a mother. That is a burden on its own, because at the end of the day, they are not ready to be parents. Financially, socially, mentally, the stigma around it in the society, at school, some they end up dropping out because how are they gonna face the teachers in the primaries, for that matter, with a pregnancy? Some they end up dropping out to say, I will return to school next year. And at that point, we talk about child neglect. A child cannot raise a child. In my profession, we call it a child neglect. If you can't even look after your child, if you can't even tell where the child is, how to bath the child, how to feed the child, or you even forget that you have a child. Sometimes you are sleeping, the child is not even sleeping, and you have to take responsibility at that time. So it's very extreme in a way that it can lead to a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, a lot of things coming from different sides, from the treatment from the family, the child on its own is stressing you. The father of the child, on the other hand, is not even supportive. Since you told him you are pregnant, he ran away. And he's dating someone else while you are still pregnant. You see them posting on their status on WhatsApp and everything. You can imagine the harm it causes to the mother. The pressure is too much. The effect is too much for a child to have a child. I think it causes a lot of psychological feelings or effect, which we overlook and can lead to certain disorders. that will need psychological intervention. But because now it's been normalized, like you are indicating, that you say, I don't want to press charges, I don't want to do this. But this child is carrying this burden on her own, and you're not having a say at that moment because you have ruined your reputation, your family reputation. You don't have a say. You can't say, Mama, but this, my Papa, but this. Like you are a disgrace, even though they don't show. Some they keep it to themselves as a family. They try to maintain the situation, to be supportive. But from an external point of view, when they sit before you, you can tell the bitterness, the anger from the parents. It's just that they can't directly show it to a child. But as a professional, you are able to see that the parents are not okay. And what about this child if the parents are not okay? So the child goes through a lot, as in the mother in this case. And that also affects the development of the child itself, the newborn. So it's very hectic.
Thank you for that one. Speaking of things that are normalized, you get to go clinic or hospital and you see a 35-year-old woman pregnant. You know, the way teenage pregnancy is so normalized, when the right age is doing it, it's like, oh, what are you doing that? Why are you doing that? And the other thing that I want to talk about, right now, we just talked about the psychological effects. I want to know about the medical effects, doctor. What does it do to the body? I remember we got some mini education back in the days where when we are young, the pelvic is too small, it could lead to this, and that. So what's your say about it?
Yeah, so basically you'd understand that when you're still in puberty, your genitourinary system is still preparing you for being a young woman. So there may be an argument that you are, but you are not yet a young woman. You are still developing towards there. So there's a lot of changes that happens to your body, right? When you are pregnant, let's say when you are 21, 22, your body needs to go through different phases in order to adjust so that you can prepare for the pregnancy. Your blood vessels has to be thicker and they have to enlarge. Your pelvis has to be a bit soft so that it's wide enough to prepare for that stage when you are giving birth. And also certain organs around your body need to also adjust around that. But just to comment on what you mentioned specifically, so basically if you are a teenager, let's say you are 14, your pelvis has not yet grown enough to accommodate a baby, even though a baby might be there. So we have what we call, most of them, they do not progress beyond the second stage, the active phase of labor, because what happens is that you find that the baby has matured and they've grown and they are old enough to be given birth, but the mother's pelvis is very small. So we have what we call a cephalopelvic disproportion, where the head is down there, but it's stuck. So most of them now we have to have an option of delivering them by cesarean section. So already that poses a challenge, because imagine cesarean section at that age. With cesarean section, you are only allowed to deliver 3 at a maximum, 3 babies. So now you are 14 years old, you are already limited to the number of babies you must have. And now if you are going to be having kids by Caesar, by the age you are 19, for example, now we have to speak to you, because after the 3rd cesarean section, we have to give you an option of closing your tubes, because we don't want to take risks. Because if we keep on cutting that womb excessively, it poses, a risk of rupturing, at the later stage. So also now there'll be an argument to say no, but then above the age of 30, that's when we can start speaking about closing the tubes, because we can't close the tubes of somebody who's 19. What if they get married, and they are 25 and they still want to have kids? And there will be a whole lot of litigations and and general arguments that are involved around that. And the other form of complication, it's high blood, because the high blood that specifically comes in pregnancy, not the chronic form of hypertension that we know. But then this one, it's more of a gestational hypertension because this baby, it's placing the mother under stress because the mother's body is not yet developed enough to handle the stress that comes with pregnancy, and you find that there's an affectations with regards to the vessels around it, and eclampsia, as we call it, is a complication of this high blood in pregnancy, and some of them can develop fits and seizures in pregnancy, and that poses a risk to the mother and the baby. So those are the common ones that we usually encounter with regards to teenage pregnancy. Some of them lose blood, very often, and they would have a pregnancy-induced anemia, or they would have anemia in pregnancy, as we call it. And yeah, it puts them under a couple of risks. And I just want to note to say that you'd observe that most of these situations, actually the number of teenage, the rising number in teenage pregnancies happens more in developing countries. It seemed to me that the developed countries have found better strategies in dealing with this. And I think also we must remember that poverty could be a contributing factor. You may have in severely impoverished families, young girls at the age of 14 having been told that they must be women and they must go and fend out for themselves. And as a result, they sleep with older men to try and get money and all of that. So yeah, I think that there's a whole number of issues that are contributing towards this.
Thank you, Doctor. To our audience and listeners, you can hear about the medical and psychological hazards of falling pregnant at a very young age. You are still watching or listening to Bay Waves, and we are talking about teenage pregnancy. In the house, we have a social worker, Ms. BALOYI, and a medical doctor, Dr. DIOBE. So before we move to contraceptives, I just want us to address the kids that are like 9 to 10 years, because the stats are quite high. And in Babisha Pinu, whenever that age, periods, what's happening with this early development? I think in our times, Natomo develop around 12, 13. That was the standard age when they start getting their periods. How did we move to 9 to 10 years? Is it evolution? Is it the food that we eat, or it's COVID? What's happening? Ms. BALOYI, you can take that one first.
Unfortunately, because I'm not a medical personnel, I will only speculate on what I hear around the issue of the food that we eat, the processed food that we eat, that causes our body to develop more faster. So that's all I can say. I'll give that one to the doctor to give more clarity.
Okay, doctor, the mic is on you.
Yeah, there's no real answer towards this, right? But then, yeah, there's been a couple of research that has been done around the issue. But I think both of you are correct. There's an evolutionary contributing factor there, because as we are living in a highly industrialized environment, so we are exposed to a number of chemicals in the food we eat, the water that we drink, and also the air that we breathe, and that sort of tends to have an impact in the number of changes that occurs in our body. And as she mentioned, the issue of food, we have, I think we used to learn also in biology in high school, the issue around genetically modified food, because a lot of things are injected now. For example, we have a lot of bananas that are injected with estrogen so that they can be thicker, they can be bigger, and they can grow faster. And if you are giving estrogen to a body that young, of course, it's going to tend to exacerbate their body into growing and developing faster than we expect it to be.
Thank you, doctor. Right now it's 8:08, and we are officially closing our comment section at 8:45. 20:45, we are closing the comment section. So please throw in those questions, the comments, and engage. While at it, please share the live stream on Facebook, also on WhatsApp. If you're using WhatsApp, share it on your status. Takhat, I'm recognizing your hand. Do you have anything from the comment section?
I have a leading question to the contraceptive question that you're going into. So, Prudence Lebofete Arem, don't you think it is wise for males to be also introduced to contraceptives? Yes, we are receivers and carriers, but I as a lady can only be pregnant once during the 9 months period, even if I can sleep around. But a male can impregnate a lot during that 9 months period. So as we go into the contraceptive topic, let's address that. I will read your other comments, guys, as time goes by.
All right, thank you, Takhat. So, yeah, that was a fire question. It's actually true, and one of the suggestion according to research, the causes of pregnancy. One of the causes of pregnancy is inadequate education about contraceptives. So before I throw in my questions, I just want us to address this one for Prudence. Well, what do you have to say, Doctor? Contraceptives for men, what's available?
Like I said, I think the problem is, this whole thing of women empowerment and girl empowerment. I mean, we are basically, even, you must also realize that even when these girls get to varsity, the information that they have, you realize that they are much more informed compared to their counter male peers. Ne? So you have a lot of programs. I remember when I was in high school, we had what we called DRIP. That was a girl program centered around educating girls, developing girls in various aspects of life. But very little is done for males, for boys. It's like we're telling them, no, whether you can go out and just experiment and find out for yourself how this life thing must go. Because I think if such things were there, we would have to, like you said, we're fortunate, some of us used to have soul buddies and we used to watch those kind of shows and would learn from that. But yeah, there should be, a number of programs that are put for boys as well that teach them how to use condoms. Because because I was parenting is also a problem. I was a bit skeptical about talking to my own nephew about this, because in my mind, you know what I mean? So why must I talk to you about it? But I think at the end of the day, we must be honest, because I think he is doing it, because I've observed some of his moves. He is doing it. They are going to do it whether we like it or not. So have those conversations about them, have those programs where you tell them and teach them the proper and the correct usage of condoms, because the condoms are available anyway, and then they are free in this country. Also,
Doctor, let me just interject. Let me interject while you're speaking. Condoms. Well, you're just talking about condoms. Are condoms enough? Look at the females. We have injections. We have pills. We have condoms. We have a lot of contraceptive methods. But what's available to the boy child or the male species? It's just the condoms and vasectomy. According to my knowledge, there could be more. I don't know. Are there more contraceptives other than the ones that I've mentioned?
Yeah, unfortunately, you can't speak about vasectomy at that age. I mean, that's usually for the older people. But yeah, it's unfortunate that those are the few that we have. But then recently there has been research around developing a male contraceptive pill. I don't know how far studies are around at with regards to that, but it's not yet in the market, and it's not yet confirmed with regards to its uses and side effects, and whether it is actually safe enough to use. But I think people are trying to develop more when it comes to that. I think if we had the male contraceptive pill, then I doubt these boys would want to take that anyway. But I think would be moving towards maybe something better with regards to assisting as well, because you did say that females have a couple, and then with boys it's just condoms and the other one. So yeah. So unfortunately, right now with the younger boys, would have to stick with condoms. And because that it goes a long way, because the advantages of a condom is that it prevents a whole lot of issues. It's not just pregnancy; it prevents STIs and HIV and all of that. And yeah, it can go a long way into helping us really. But nobody's prepared to talk about it with these younger ones.
Tahato, I think you want to say something.
Really briefly, doctor.
Why?
The doctor speaks of there are a lot of programs focusing on the girl child. Who created those programs? Is the women, right? The women came together and were like, okay, let's create this. Guys, where are the male in society? Where is the male in society? What's the role of the male in society? Why didn't you guys have those talks? Why listen to the support groups for yourselves? Why each time a man comes up, and I was raped, I was molested, the first thing you do is shoot him down? Why are you doing this yourself? Who's supposed to come and rescue you from these shackles that you bounded yourselves to?
Yeah, it's directed to me. No, you have a point there. Yeah, it's just that, like, I think we are slowly. I mean, we are learning also as a male species as we grow up. Recently there are a few programs, not as many as the girls have. There's a program called Raise a Boy Child. Tando Machinini, one of my friends in medical school as well, has a program focused around men. We used to have discussions, but then that's more like young adults, like university and in workplaces. He had a program. I forgot the name of the program, but then I'll try and find it. So, but then those programs are a bit slow because I think the way culture, I think as Black people, the way culture raised us, as I mentioned earlier, it raised us very differently from the way girls grew up. Because you'd realize that, for example, let me give you an example. If you have a boy child at the age of maybe 10, and then the same girl at the age of 10, that girl is being raised to think of herself as a flower. So she runs and then she falls. The entire family literally goes around that girl. My little flower, I'm sorry for that happening. The same happens to a boy child at the age of 10. They go around, they run, they fall. I think the natural instinct in Black families would be stop crying. I want to stop crying. You are a boy, be strong about it, auto fall, and then that's it. So you realize that creates some form of behavioral trait that these two genders grow up with, and then ultimately how we deal with societal issues externally and in general. So yeah, we are a bit slow on the progress, but then we are getting there. And I think maybe I should consider using I Speak to the World Foundation as well as one of the tools that can help around with that. So thank you for that comment.
Thank you, Doctor. Still on the topic about contraceptives, I don't know if Tahato wanted to make a follow-up question.
No.
All right. Ms. Baloyi, I don't know, are you a parent yet?
Yes, I am a parent to a 5-year-old girl.
And when do you think it's the right time to start engaging in such topics with the child? When do you think you said it's a girl, right?
Yes, it's a girl.
When do you think you'll be comfortable to talk to them about contraceptives, such matters?
I haven't thought about it, but the best thing I think is to observe your child. As you're living with your child, what the child talks about, what the friends are talking about, because at this point, she shares everything from school, from crèche, what they do when they are playing with the others. It's always best to listen and listen to understand, not the fact that I'm from work, I'm tired, one researcher, what, and if don't be dismissive of your child when the child is talking. It's very much important to listen to what the child is saying so that you are able to correct even the information that the child has, because as the child is sharing, it's your opportunity also to step in and to correct, because if you don't correct, the child might feel, okay, it's okay to do it, it's fine, my mother doesn't mind. And
Your mic is muted, Ms. Baloyi.
you're not showing any interest in communicating or sitting down or correcting or anything. But I believe that at the age where it's 9 or 10, where the child will start talking about such topics, I think it will be the best time to also share information. The issue is not about enabling the child to do it, but also educating the child to know and understand the difference, what they see means, what other people are saying means, and also the consequences of doing such. Because the time of hiding, or this is a private part, what does it do, would have passed. Why are we having males and female toilets, and why are we not supposed to play with boys? I think we with time, as the child talks to you, you should be able to have a third ear to hear what is not said in a sentence, in order for you to know what kind of a communication are you supposed to implement to this child. And also, if you feel like it's difficult to parent this child, go to a therapist for a session about the parenting style, parentinghood, and everything. And they are very much helpful in terms of helping you to have an open mind about the parenting and all the challenges that you encounter in parenting. So I believe, at the age where she will start talking about issues or myths or anything that is not right, in a way of correcting, I will be educating.
All right. I have noted 3 things. You said you shouldn't dismiss the child, you should educate the child, and where you are not sure, then consult for therapy. Are there other methods that you think they can be a possible mitigation for parents in the households to mitigate this whole teenage pregnancy thing?
I think for parents who are having children with, I think they also are going through something. It's always important to acknowledge your feelings about a certain situation, because you may find that there's a certain way that you're feeling about the whole thing, about your child, about everything that is happening in your household. We are human beings. We are allowed to feel, we're allowed to get hurt, we're allowed to do all these things. So it's always important to talk to someone to get help as a parent of this teenager, because if you are failing, you are going to cause more harm than good in the journey of parenting this child. And in a way, the dysfunctionality now will be in 2 families, your own family and your child's family, by the time your child will have her own family, because she did not receive the love, the communication, the relationship was not that good. So it's always advisable for one to seek help, even as a parent of a teenager. If you feel like the situation is too much, it was unanticipated, it just happened, and it left me feeling this way, it's good to be open about how you feel as a parent, because at the end of the day, you are supposed to parent that child. You are still a mother to that child. Whether the child is wrong or did something that is unforgivable, you still have that role to play. And if there's any neglect that will happen, your own child has the right to even report you, to say, my own mother is neglecting me. As a parent of a newborn, that mother, that child will also have that right to say, I'm being neglected. And when we look at the age and whatever that you're doing, and we have to sit down and do something about it, because it has a very much impact psychologically, the environment, and the ongoing process, or the development of that child, because we have different stages of development as we grow. The doctor will concur. we have got where we have to identity crisis, where you need to find yourself at a certain age, only to find that at that point you are still as a child not finding yourself because you can't relate with anyone.
Thank you, Ms. Baloyi. You are still tuned in Bayways. We are talking about teenage pregnancy during COVID. In the house, we have our social work, Ms. Baloyi, and then a medical doctor, Dr. DIOBE. So right now, we were just talking about the causes of teenage pregnancy and a bit about contraceptives. So please make sure you engage there by the comment section. Throw in questions, throw in your views. What do you think are the causes of teenage pregnancy, the high teenage pregnancy stats during COVID, and how do you think we can control it or mitigate it? Right now, we are going back to Dr. Like I've said earlier, the stats, the research suggests that one of the key or the biggest contributors to teenage pregnancy is the inadequate education about contraceptives. So I'm just going to give you 5 minutes max to give us a brief education about contraceptives, which ones are accessible at public hospitals, what are the effects, just that mini education. 5 minutes max.
Okay, so you have different types of contraceptives. Né? So what you have is that you have what we call barrier methods, and then you also have the hormonal type of contraceptives, and you also have even devices that we are using. But the ones that are mostly available in hospitals are the hormonal ones and then the barrier ones. So barrier would be in the form of condoms. There's what we call spermicides as well. There are creams around it where you can actually apply that cream to kill sort of sperms. But then that one it's a bit risky in a way. And then also you have the hormonal ones. So the hormonal ones you have from the injections to the pills. So the injection ones, you have what we call the Provera. This is the depot, the one that usually females get. For 3 months is an injection. So it sort of like helps you with a prevention of pregnancy for about 3 months. And then you have different types of contraceptive pills. There is a whole myriad of them. But most of them are literally centered around the hormone progesterone and estrogen. So they sort of manipulate how those hormones affect your cycle as a woman. There are a number of companies that are developing different types of them. But then the one that is commonly used is the one that you can take around your 30-day cycle, and it sort of helps you also to keep track of your cycle as well. But then you have to, for the pill to work and to be effective, you have to take it as per instruction, and you have to take it every day. You do not skip. There are rules around skipping to say if you skip one today, then maybe the next day you take two, and so on. And then also for older women, we have what we call uterine contraceptive devices. We have what we call a Mirena. Somebody can just decide that I'm just going to go around, go there and put a Mirena there, and it will prevent. It has side effects, of course, because it's an entire foreign object that we are inserting inside you. So obviously, it's made of plastic and metal, so it would have some side effects on you there. Also nowadays we have what we call patches. We have there's a new technology of patches that are developed. And then there's one way we can also inject it and sort of put it in your arm, and it's also a form of hormonal contraceptive as well. So that is just a brief overview. Like you'd need time to actually go on into different types and a number of them, and also the side effects. But usually with the hormonal ones, the side effects are around your periods. Some of them you are going to have your like affectation on your cycles. Some of them can cause you nausea and vomiting. Some of them can actually make you dizzy. And also, with regards to your body as a woman, some women don't like them because they cause different types of changes in their body. You find that now you are gaining weight more than you want to gain weight and all of that. So yeah, those are, I think it's just in brief overview, those are the different types that we have. And the most commonly available ones, it's the hormonal ones, the injections, the depot, the contraceptive pill at the clinic, and also the condoms. Also, there's what they call emergency contraceptives. Ne? This one works 72 hours after having sex. So you realize that you have unprotected sex with somebody that you do not think that, or you're not ready, or this person, you don't think that they are compatible enough to be the father to your children. You can go to a pharmacy, they need an ID, they need you to fill in a particular form there to consent that you are taking emergency contraceptive, what we call in colloquial terms morning after pill, and to avoid that. But also remember that you do not want to be a type of girl that is taking morning after pills for 3 years, because that is going to have a serious effect on your womb, and it can affect you in the long run with regards to the issue of having to bear children in the future.
Thank you, Doctor. That was Dr. DIOBE giving us education about contraceptives. Right now, it's 2029, and we will be closing the comment section in about 15 minutes. So if you have any questions about contraceptives, please throw them there by the comment section, and Hagatu will bring them here. So Ms. BALOYI, the doctor was telling us about medical contraceptives, and I do believe they are actually psychological contraceptives. This you could know better in your line of work and as a parent as well. What can you say to the teenagers that could inhibit them or stop them from actually getting the?
Okay, without even threatening them or making them to be scared about the consequences, because I believe to some it works, to some it doesn't work. So it's very much important to just be honest about the whole thing, about the effects of teenage pregnancy, the consequences, all of them, how it's going to affect a person or the child on her own, and also the newborn. So the most important thing as a contraceptive is to educate, because you cannot rely on let's educate them about abstinence only. So we need to sit down and discuss the whole thing. The fact that the child is still young, like the doctor said, does not necessarily mean they will not do what they do behind a closed door where we cannot see them, because at the end of the day, they'll just come back pregnant, and now you have to deal with the aftermath. So it's very important to sit down with your child, talk about everything and share everything. If it's possible, we can even opt for giving your child money to access those contraceptive, discuss about the safety one, the safe one, what they prefer. If it's a matter of going to your family doctor, go an extra mile to protect the child and protect also whatever that may come out. And also to when you purchase also the pads or on a monthly basis, if your child is sexually active or you suspect that your child will be sexually active, you can even purchase condoms and give them, whether it's a boy or a girl, as a way to educate. And also it strengthens the relationship between the mother and the child, or the father and the child, in terms of saying, oh, this mother is open, my mother understands these things, my mother knows that I'm at this age and believes, or at this age, a child of my age can do this and this. Let it be their discretion to use those things and also to come back and share. But be a parent who is very open and not harsh and not jump into conclusion. And also when you see or identify certain things in your child, you start by talking to maybe the sister or someone before you can talk to the child. At least have a strategy or a way to communicate through to that child. Because the minute you tell the next person, you are invading into this child's feelings, and also you expect them to sit and listen to you. So at the end of the day, as a parent, you may have 3 children. You must have a special relationship with each one of them. A talk where you are just the 2 of you, go out for a tea, and then you talk about these things, the 2 of you, a relationship that is just between the 2 of you. Yes, you love your children equally, but the relationship that you share might not be the same in terms of the personalities of your children. Remember, each and every child is different. So they should be treated differently as they appear, or the way they are, in order to have that good and open relationship. I think that is the best contraceptive, to say, sit and talk, let everything be out in the open. Be a parent who is always willing to listen without judging, without even jumping into conclusion. Give him or her a chance to talk, be it a boy, be it a girl, because the doctor has been emphasizing the fact that the boy child is being neglected all the time. Yes, the boy child has been neglected, but now that we are able to point out the consequences of neglecting the boy child, we need to revisit the relationship we have. Remember, when I started, I indicated that some children are born and they are single, they're raised by single parent, the guardian, the foster parent, the grandparent, or everything. So we need to make sure that as a parent or as a guardian of that child, be it a boy, be it a girl, let there be a good relationship where you're able to share all these things without looking at the gender. Because as we look at the gender, then now we are already discriminating. Now we're already starting to treat them unequally. And that is very much visible before their eyes, to say, okay, this one, you already beg her, you even buy her chocolates when she's on her periods and this and that and that. But what about me? And at the end of the day, they develop this thing of, no, I'll just look out for myself. I'll start to hustle. And that is where attachment is broken. They now start to rely on certain people for advices and everything. So that's all I can say.
Thank you so much. Before we move to the second key contributor to teenage pregnancy, I recognize my co-host. I'm thinking there's something from the comment section. Tahato?
There is a comment from Ifinya Lele Mod. I think being open and friends with our kids could also help us as a Black community to be able to penetrate our kids' minds at an early age, so that we could inform and educate them more about these things. And again, I think the more friendly you are to your kids, the more chances you get to get them to listen and be more open towards you as a parent about almost everything. And I feel the more you tell a child to not do something without giving valid reasons, is the more they would want to experience the very same thing you're saying they shouldn't do. And
Yeah, before you move to Tahato?
Yes.
Before you move to the second comment, I just want to address this one fast.
Okay.
I see our doctor here has a diploma in Bible studies. I don't know if he's a pastor or he's just an active member of the church. I want to know, what is the church doing about this? Mitigation of teenage pregnancy. Are you just talking about abstaining? What exactly are you doing as the church?
No, I'm not a pastor. I just have the paper that you mentioned. But I think you sort of read my mind there. Because what can I say? I wanted to actually pose it as a question, to say, I think there's an elephant in the room, particularly as Christians, that we are ignoring here. Because according to Christianity, if you find any sophisticated Christian family, they will tell you sex before marriage is a sin. End of story. So we're not gonna be discussing about contraceptives with a 14-year-old child and all of that, because sex before marriage is a sin, and they must just know that. And so there's not much, or there's not much that is done or said with regards to the impact that religion has on these statistics, because it's not just the religion of Christianity and many other religions out there that believe, for if you are having sex before marriage, you are defiling your body. So I mean, I wanted to really pose it as a question because as you guys have been talking, I've been thinking about to say, wait a minute, but then how does religion affect us when it comes to this? But in my opinion, I would just say that most strict Christian houses do not even want to entertain that. I think to a certain extent, it does help as it become a form of prevention, but at the same time, it's a 50-50 thing because majority of these teenagers, when they get to varsity, oh my God, the so-called PKs, like give freedom, I'm in a world of my own. My parents are no longer there to tell me what to do, and they want to explore, and they can tend to overdo it in a way because it's something nice that they haven't experienced or had before. So yeah, I think I don't know. I wouldn't want to, as I said, I'm not a pastor. I would not want to comment in the position of a church. You would have to consult pastors about that. What are they doing and all of that. But I think in a way, such programs are given to us to tackle those type of issues.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you for that one. Back to you, Takhato.
We had another comment from Sinamela Dorothy Ratile Are. Some parents want to raise their children the way they were raised, forgetting that the times have changed and that their children cannot be like them or behave like them, which makes it difficult for the teenagers to talk about stuff. And Cecil Maboko is saying to young men, I would say adopt responsibility for your own well-being. Try to put your family together. Try to save your community. Try to seek for eternal truth. That's the sort of thing that can ground you in your life. Enough so that you can stand with the difficulty of life and not leave girls in a place where they would have to resort to abortion. And Prudence Lebohete said, I think we are also trapped by the phrase a girl matures before a boy. But by phrase, meaning the girls. And to the others, unfortunately, I have repeating questions. I have questions that have been answered. I cannot reach all of them, but we do thank you for your contribution. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for your comments and all. Yeah, that would be all from my side.
Thank you, Takhato, and thank you to the audience that is participating. The other thing is we are moving to the second part, second key contributor of teenage pregnancy, which is rape. So I'm just going to extend the time in the comment section because we were late. We were 5 minutes late into the show. I'm just going to extend the time to 5 minutes, meaning we are closing the comment section at 20:50. So addressing the rape, this one is also a sensitive one. So Doctor, I did hear when somebody has been raped and they are not ready to report it as yet, they can tell the doctor and the doctor keeps files. How true is that? Can I just talk to the doctor and then 5 years later go report it to the police station?
That's something I haven't heard before or haven't experienced before, but the legalities around it is that you can report it because there's doctor-patient confidentiality. I'm gonna write it in your file. I'm not going to expose it if you don't want me to expose it. I'm only allowed to expose information if I do think that you are at risk and you are putting other people at risk as well. But if it's in between you and I can just write it in the file and leave it there. But with regards to you coming later after 5 years and reporting it, I think there would be downsides with regards to doing that, because remember the issues around rape, we are looking for proof. We want to do a particular examinations, we want to take swabs, we want to just be sure that we provide you with enough evidence that is going to support you in case the matter goes to court. So if you're going to come back 5 years later after thinking about it, you'll still get the files, you'll still get the information, but I'm not sure whether that will help you with regards to pressing charges, because somebody can come and say you are lying. Why did you wait for 5 years? Why come back 5 years later? How are you going to prove that? So I think, in my opinion, people should just report as soon as possible. I understand sometimes it's a bit traumatic and one may not be ready to talk about it, but counseling, we have social workers, we have psychologists that can help you with regards to, breaking forth the bad news and trying to seek help as soon as possible.
Oh, thank you, Doctor. Takatso, like I said, we represent 2,000, the teenagers in the house. So I want to know who is raping? Is it family? Is it partners? Is it friends? Is it complete strangers? Like, is it the guy, that serial rapist from the movies that just comes into the village or town and just rapes everyone? Who is it? Who are the key contributors to this whole rape thing?
You know that uncle who comes around and you have to go take off your bum short and wear something longer? That uncle who comes around and then you have to cover up your boobs. That neighbor who sends you to the shop out 100 rand because and you'll be excited. It's legit. I think our parents know who does those things. I think our parents know who are a danger to us. Mara, they just don't want to put it out there for him. Malumu to rape, but no, until now, don't wear like this in front of this kind of person. Those are the people who are raping. But you know who else rapes us? Our boyfriends. These people do not understand a no. They do not understand a no. And because you're in a relationship, he now feels entitled to having sex whenever he wants to have sex with me. And we did say this when we were talking about the green sex and the red sex of relationship. But if you are in a space where you have to come up with an excuse of not having sex, you are not in a safe space. So the boyfriends do rape. The uncle Ola Wapulang Bamshot Waparang Sketisa Hova, they are the ones who rape. That is fishy neighbor, Kiana Ariban. The teachers at schools, something that we totally do not want to talk about. The teachers at high schools, especially, they are predators. We have a crisis Scotland, where the doctors are predators. A lot, like there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. Like
I saw the things on Facebook. It was trending at some point where they were talking about those doctors.
It's a problem. It's a whole pandemic on its own, because the young kids cannot account for themselves. Yes, even so we put the blame on the kids not addressing the older person who's pursuing them, and that also is a problem. And I would say, most importantly, I think it's the boyfriends. And no one the parents overlook it, because why would you now? The doctor said for it, they would sit and explain for this is rape. And the parents been knowing the whole time for 15 Dr. DIOBE with 30 years there, but then it now becomes a rape when I'm only pregnant. What was happening in between before I was pregnant? Why did we ignore the whole relationship? So parents, they play an active role in this pregnancy. Mara, we just do not want to say. What we do is just blame the girls and blame the girls and blame the girls. And honestly, I think the solution lies somewhere else than with the girls. Because they don't participate in sex. If that was the case, then we didn't have so much. We wouldn't have pregnancies at all, but because we have now this rising thingy, this rising problem. So, but the society, I'm not going to say the society, but what you they say,
yeah. Thank you, Takato. I have noted a lot of things, but no means no. if your boyfriend cannot, or girlfriend, because it goes both ways, they cannot take a no, that's a red flag. We were speaking about red flags and white flags the other day. That's a red flag. And should they pursue whatever after saying no, report them. Report them. If there's an adult, because we are aware that our audience starts from a very young age, including a 6-year-old go high. So I just want to say, if there's an adult that is saying nasty comments, that is touching you in a very uncomfortable manner, report it to an adult. If you're not comfortable with your mom, tell a teacher at school. If you're not comfortable with the teacher at school, tell a relative or tell somebody at church. There's just always somebody that you can trust with such matters. And there's also a comment from the floor that says, I think, oh, what if you were raped at a young age and couldn't press charges then as you were young and didn't have information? Is it possible that you press charges? I just realized the mistake that we did. We forgot to invite a police or somebody from the crime department, because they were also going to give us more information about such matters. But we will sure organize some information. We might throw them there in the comment section or make another episode as a continuation of this series. You are still watching Bay Waves or listening to Bay Waves. We are talking about teenage pregnancy. I'm your host, Happiness Ranto, along with Bundle of Joy, Munakedi Tahato. We are graced with a social worker in the house, Ms. BALOYI, and a doctor, medical doctor, Dr. Thabang DIOBE. So right now we were talking about the key contributors of teenage pregnancy. We are just rounding up on rape, but before we can close it, I just want to ask Mama Mukigore, what can you say to the rape victims?
Okay. One thing I have learned from what we have been talking about is that all these rape victims are not given a platform to talk about it. They are not given a platform to get help. So what kind of a generation are we raising? If these children or these teenagers, they grow up with that trauma, they develop the post-traumatic stress disorder, they fear men, they have to raise a child that was born out of rape. What are we saying to them? What kind of a women are they gonna be? What kind of children are they raising? Will they share the love to the child? When will they learn to love this child? Because as parents, if we don't press charges, it means this child will not get psychological help, because we are trying to cover everything up without thinking about this poor soul that has gone through so much. And at the end of the day, this person will seek for help whenever they are old enough. And it's something that has been continuing for so long. How do we think this young soul is coping at school, is coping with friends, is coping around men, is coping around any kind of activities that involve her or him to be around other people? What happens when this person start to date, like in a way that they understand what he's talking about, what they're doing, and now they have to open up to their partner, they need to consent to sex? What happens to them? What about the impact that the rape happened to this person? That is when we end up having their children growing up without the love that they deserve from a mother, from a father, because this child is a product of rape. And at the end of the day, the parents, the grandparents, they were aware about it, but they just decided to care about their reputation. They cared about what will people say. They cared about what if people knows about it, they will treat you different and everything. So sometimes it's very much important to think about the victim, their well-being, their future, because everything that revolves around them now, it's going to affect what they become tomorrow, where they will be, they will end up in life, and the kind of risk they will take in life in pursuit to become better people. That is going to jeopardize them.
All right, thank you so much. It is 20:53. That is in 7 minutes to closing, and we have officially closed the comment section. Dr. DIOBE, what is your last words about this conversation, your concluding statement? What can you say to the audience?
Yeah, you know, when Takas was speaking, she said something there about boyfriends, and I think also you'd realize that I think somebody in the comments said they are told that the female develops faster than the male. Therefore, teenage girls tend to date guys who are much older than them. If you are 14-year-old, you are a 15-year-old, you are sleeping with somebody that's 21-year-old. It doesn't matter if you are consenting. That's rape. That guy is raping you. So it's rape all along. And I think those are the issues that we often leave them undiscovered and unsaid in the families, and we don't want to discuss them and talk about them. So I think there are a lot of issues that we have mentioned, the issues of poverty, the issues of rape, the issues of not enough education, issues of religion. So we can therefore tell that there are a number of contributing factors with regards to why there is so much rise in teenage pregnancy. And teenage pregnancy is a problem because it creates a lot of issues that leads towards dysfunctional families, that leads towards depression. Some mothers do take their lives. Some guys, by fear of not knowing what to do if they're going to raise the child, they take their life. So it becomes a problem. It causes traumas in families, in communities. And if you are going to build a better society, these are the issues that we shouldn't be afraid going forward and tackling and facing them head on. And we need to be open and honest about. And to those also Christian families, I think we should be open enough and honest enough with these kids. Issues of telling them that sex before marriage is a sin. It doesn't mean that when now you understand the depth of that verse because you are an adult Christian, but it doesn't mean that the child understands. They remember that they go to school with friends, they go to school with other people from different walks of life, and they are going to get influence, and they are going to do it anyway. And also, I don't know if they should be parental guidance, because you mentioned a very significant thing about the media. The media is very toxic. When we used to watch TV, there used to be very strict rules around parental guidance and all of that. Nowadays, people are just doing whatever they like. Even cartoons are also now projectifying the issues of sex as if it's something cool to do. Now, kids are having iPhones at the age of 10 years old. They have access to pornography and all those type of issues. And we need to look around those issues as parents and provide guidance with regards to how we do our parenting life.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Doctor, for that beautiful closing statement. I'm just going to give our social worker the opportunity to give a closing statement, 2 minutes max.
Okay. Just to share a little about the whole conversation that we have had. Yes, we do have social ills in our society that contributes also to teenage pregnancy. But I can say it's not beyond us. If we can come together, integrate our services, work together, parents and other professionals in raising these children, I think we can still fight that. It's just a matter of where you think you are lacking as a person. Seek for other people to assist you, be it to talk to your child, be it a professional, somebody to share certain issues that you're not comfortable talking about. But anyway, let us be there for one another. And also, when these things happen, or you find yourself with a child who is pregnant at the teenage age, give that child support. They're going through a lot on their own already. By just finding out that they are pregnant, I cannot imagine the anxiety that they go through. And then also with the issue of religion, we indicated the issue of the sex before marriage, which is a sin and everything. And also it becomes a problem wherein a child of a parent who is an elder in a church is pregnant. I fail to understand the relationship that's going to happen thereafter, because now the child has disappointed the mother, the child has disappointed the church. What happened there with this child? Is the child resented? Is the child accepted? But some Christians that are matured enough, they're able to handle the situation. But the family that is very much rooted into the laws and everything, I fear for the well-being of that child that will be pregnant, because they have to be subjected to certain punishments and everything else. And also with the issue of educational talks, with COVID, it has not been easy on our side also to render awareness campaigns in the schools and everywhere we can gather our teenagers, boys and girls. COVID regulations didn't make it easy for any of us to integrate our services to reach out to teenagers. So I think also can be a contributing factor that was overlooked at as the banning or the regulations were made to say, how are these people going to access such services? How are we going to make sure that everything is in place? So, but then I'm still saying it's not beyond us. It's we can work together, parents, guardians, teachers, and other professionals. If we can work together, reach out to one another, we can still be able to help our children to become better people and also to reach their dreams and their goals.
Thank you so much. Before I give my co-host the opportunity to give her closing statement, I just want to say thank you, Dr. DIOBE and Ms. Baloyi, for honoring the invitation. We are definitely going to invite you again, because through this conversation, I think it is very important that Bay Waves host a girl chat and a men's conference. A girl chat, we're just going to allow anybody to join in this video and we have a conversation. We are approaching festive. A lot of things is going to happen. Yes, my people are going to dress less, and we need uncensored conversations about sex, about contraceptives, and I think it is going to be very important to have you, knowing you're specializing in substance abuse as well, rehabilitation of that. A lot of youth finding comfort go savannah in alcohol. So we also need to talk about that, talk about them escaping reality through social media and ending up being addicted. How do we deal with addictions? We need to have a conversation about that. And then Dr. DIOBE, we are going to have a men's conference. Luana, I hope you're going to honor the invitation again with that, where men are going to be here as well, talking about the challenges as men, as boy children, the same way the girls are going to be doing it. Also, I just want to say, on top of that, my co-host here has something we call a local street club, which is a safe space for young girls to talk about such matters as well. We can include that in her closing statement. Takato?
In my closing statement, I have a beef with parents. So let's, as parents, try to get to understand your kids better. Try to remove the fear in sex, talk about it, remove the shame from it, educate and do not instill fear. And to the men, guys, no one is gonna come and say, come, I save you. You guys just have to stand up yourselves and save yourselves. You guys have to open up the spaces for yourselves. The Mogodos are tired, like we're just tired. We don't want to participate in your emotional stuff anymore. So do get up and do talk to each other. The local strip club is open for girls of any age. We just talk about stuff that it's a safe space actually. So whatever you want to vent about, come, we got you. Even if we cannot help you, at least you'll be talking to someone. Maybe along the way, whether yourself you'll find a solution. It's the name is actually weird, but we're literally stripping our emotions. That's why the strip club. But yeah, and remember that before you are a male or female or whatever, you are human. That's it from me.
That's actually her slogan. We are tired and you are human. She always makes sure to include those words. Anyways, to round up, let me just remind you, my friend Nonzikelelo Blessing is helping the small businesses that suffered during COVID. This is a way of celebrating her birthday on Sunday. So what she's doing is that she is taking contributions from people. If you want to pledge any amount to help small businesses, you send money to the account there. It's in the comment section, and she's gonna award a minimum, or is it? I think it's a maximum of 5K to each small business, and this is gonna be taking place from Sunday, the 21st. So in order for you to qualify for it, send her an email with a motivational letter. There's an email attached below. Yeah, so just do the things, and yeah, let's beat this COVID. We cannot continue being victims of COVID. We are tired. So that's it from Bay Waves. We love you so much. Thank you. Thank you for engaging. Let's meet again next week, Tuesday at 7 p.m. for another blazing episode. Good night.